morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Wednesday morning, where I am back to being the number one greatest dad, which Jasmine will probably debate because I think she was trying to sleep in the next door over. So she's not anymore, I'm assuming. So I don't know if she thinks I'm number one greatest dad still, but the mug is still saying it. So there's that. Number two is in the house. Gordo, what's happening?
What's going on? I got my best mom ever mug because my kid hasn't given me a best dad ever mug yet. So
that's because your wife doesn't believe you're the best dad ever.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Damn it, Finn.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all these meetings, I don't know if you're gonna get it anytime soon either. But your Wednesday morning meetings.
Yeah. I'm all
today. The dog dad. What's happening?
What's happening, people? Yeah, I'm here.
You don't go around as a dog dad, do you?
What do you mean?
Oh, you don't know this concept? I know there's like always like dog.
Oh, I have a kid. It's a dog though.
Cat mom, no, nothing.
Oh, no. I mean, Kelly calls me that to the dog more because I think if she just said go see asshole all the time, people would question who she's talking to and what they're talking about until they get to know me. But I think that has more to do with it. But I don't. I'm one of those people when I say to someone like, oh, blah, 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 a dog. And they're like, so you have it's like your kid. And I'm like, it's my wife's kid. I'm like, it's my fucking dog. I just pick up the shit and feed him.
My foster kid.
But then again, that's kind of what I hear my friends pitch about having to do with their kids, pick up their shit and feed them. So I guess I am.
Yeah, I mean, you become like it is kind of like that. I think we do say that too. Angie says that a lot. It's like, go to dad's. Like if she's in the kitchen, go see what dad is doing. And I'm like, no, man, I'm playing over here on PlayStation. I don't want him on my ass. But yeah, obviously we're going to be here for the pre-match once the lineups come out. So I don't want to spend too much time going into that stuff. Couple of things I wanted to get to regarding the game is the pre-match press conference. Gordo, I mean, we talked a lot about this with Gally and Bickler on Monday nights regarding like the Mo Salah comments and stuff like that. So I don't want to dwell over it again because we went freaking like half an hour on it. I was only hoping for 5 to 10 minutes there, but we'll get your take for one, and also your take on how Slut approaches it, because he said, people told me about this, but I've said many times we don't share this over here. At least I don't share this over here. I thought that was kind of like nicely put. The only thing I can say is if you look at my lineups, Mo is more in than out. So that quote I can give you. And that was probably one of his earlier club moments, like the normal one or something like that. He's like, here is a quote.
Yeah.
Kind of the deal. But what do you make out of the whole ordeal and his approach, I guess?
In my opinion, he totally deflates a lot of the worry, because I think I think the reason you guys did the 30 minutes is because there is so many different angles, because we don't actually know what's going on. We don't know if there is negotiations going on. We don't know if they've presented anything or they're in the process of presenting anything. We don't even know, the inner workings of what the club want to do in terms of, are they going to settle Trent and Verge and Allison first, or if they're going to do Mo first or whatever. So there's a lot of speculation. So you can kind of, there's so many different avenues you can go down of what he meant by this, and was it disrespectful and selfish, or was it a cry for help, saying like, look at basically he went to the fans. I thought it was interesting that he went to the Anfield Wrap. He it wasn't Sky, it wasn't BBC, it wasn't like a major news thing. It was basically he was speaking directly to the fans. It's like, the club right now is not offering me anything.
Do you like that? Because that actually irks me more than if he said it to Sky personally.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I understand it, because from his point of view, I definitely understand if he wants to stay, that's the place to go. And that it sort of solidified my thoughts of the man wants to stay at this club. He would not have gone out to go to.
I disagree.
Really?
I'm not positive he wants to stay. And the reason I say this is the more I thought about it, I'm more angry. I'll be honest.
It bothered me.
If this were me from Monday night, you would have got a different Gally. And we might not have had 30 minutes because Tim would have been like, I'm not going to let him do this for 30 minutes. No, I'm frustrated. I actually think it was deliberate. And the more I thought about it, he had just gotten off TV with Sky. He said nothing.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to answer questions from reputable journalists. He wanted to answer questions from fanboys. And he wanted the fanboys to get his word out to the minions, to the
Yeah, that's what I was saying on Monday. I mean, that's what pissed me off, because
Creating
he's
anger.
literally with Sky. He is actually talking to Sky 5 minutes before, because he's the man of the match. He's
Yeah.
getting the award and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I
if
didn't
he
even
wasn't
think
in the
about that angle.
post-match interview, maybe you could say, "Oh, this is the first time," or whatever. He was frustrated after the game. He had a fucking post-match interview with Sky. So for him to come out and do that, I don't know. I thought it made it a bit more
And he
shady and annoying. But I mean, like Bickler was saying, we do this every 3 years with Mo. So
he uses those specific words too. He uses words like, they haven't offered me a contract. Like, he makes sure that there's exact words in there that if it comes out that the club's like, what are you talking about? You know what? You want to slag us off? We'll show you. We offered him 3 different deals. You don't get, like, this is happening right now in baseball, right? The largest contract in American sports is about to be signed. And people are like, has he gotten an offer yet?
Mhm.
The team, you don't offer
are we
numbers
talking
on
about the
paper.
dude that pitches?
No, the
juggles?
Juan Soto guy is going to get more than that Ohtani guy. There's a Yankee outfielder is going to get 800,
okay.
700 to 800 million, probably over 15 to 16 years. And the point of it
Swinging
is,
a bat.
well, and just wait, because the Red Sox are one of the team that put up $600 million offer to him. So God forbid he actually signs with the Red Sox. Liverpool people's heads will fucking come off. Just like
Yes.
the Liverpool
Oh,
heads
shit.
came off when they gave Mo all that money and then Mookie Betts left. But the problem is they're completely separate entities that work on completely separate budgets. To me, the club might have went to Mo and said, we're thinking 2 to 3 years, 300 to 400K. He might have went 4 years, 500,000. Then they don't make an offer because it's not worth it, because it makes Virgil's deal harder. And that's what bothers me is his own agent said, I've been actively communicating with the club, yet he says on December or November 25th, we haven't heard a single word. There's nothing happening. This felt like pressure on the club and also an outreaching cry to the world to let everybody know, I may want to stay, but I'm interested. Come give me those big offers, PSG. Come give me that big offer, Bayern Munich, Saudi Arabia. And, this is very similar to Mane's last year here. There was rumblings he wanted to leave. There was the rift with Salah. But the truth of the matter was the club wasn't willing to pay Mane what he thought he was worth anymore. So it was time for him to go. And I know Mo's having a better year than Mane had in his last year. But I do think it's a similar parallel at this point. And I think the fact that the manager left last year, I've said this a bunch of times, if Jurgen Klopp was still here, I don't believe Mo Salah would be. And I think that Salah said, I'm not going to leave. I got 1 year left. I'll take the money. Let's see how this goes. And now it's like, oh, shit, this is so unbelievable. This doesn't need to be my swan song. Maybe I can talk them into giving me $400K for 4 years. He's not getting over what his terms are now, and that's been my argument all along why I don't think.
Yeah, I think his terms might go, not the time. Like the 4 years would probably be the sticky point in that contract, not the 400 or anything like that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I agree with Gordon in the sense that I think Gordon, he does want to stay, and I'm sure Liverpool wants him to stay in terms of production and everything like that. And obviously, the system is functioning through him. And knowing him, it will continue to function at least a couple of seasons. He's not going to suddenly drop like run like me. So he's going to be around for that, but within reason. Like, clubs and companies don't work where you say just give him what he wants, because that shit doesn't work like that.
And you gotta think about how these contract negotiations are coming along. Both parties are. Liverpool has, as Gally pointed out, a couple of different contracts it's a shoestring, right? You don't have unlimited budget. If you pull one way, you're going to pull away from the other ones. And so the club really has to decide who they want to keep and who they're going to invest in, because you're going to have to invest maybe a little bit more than you want to in somebody if you want to keep them, because the other ones, all the agents know that that's the case as well. Yep. And all the other agents are probably waiting around for somebody else's contract to get done so they can kind of visualize where the club, where the money's at. So this is like a really intricate situation. It's not a cut and dry, this is what we want to owe you, and if you want a little bit more, we have a little bit more. This is one of these things where you take a little bit out of Virgil's pot to give to Mo, then you've also taken it out of Trent's pot as well. And so like it's super intricate, but also Mo's coming at it from, look what I've given you, and I deserve X. And Liverpool is going, this contract is for what you're going to give us and not what you have given us. And so like already they're at odds because Liverpool are not going to offer a guy that, I think it may have been Anfield Rap. One of the podcasts I was talking about the contract earlier in the season is perfect world. We offer him 2 years, and in May of 2027, he starts to decline in form. And that's perfect world. And it's not going to happen. And Liverpool know that's not going to happen. So we're going to offer you 2, and this is the money with the expectation that somewhere in those 2 years, your form is going to decline. Where most guys are coming in at going, I've given you X, Y, Z over the last 9 years. I deserve this. And so I think it's
like that.
And so like you're already at odds.
Sergi says if Salah gets his contract and stays, this all will all be forgotten about. All these players, once they sign, they score a goal, and he'll take his shirt off, pull his shorts down, and it will all be forgotten. I mean, basically, that's what is going to happen. I get that. I think the tricky part is, and this is kind of like, the older regime's fault, and I mean, obviously, it's still under FSG's watch that this wasn't taken care of, and you're dealing with 3 of these at the same time that are probably dependent on each other at the end of the day in terms of what you're going to allocate. If it was only Mo, it's a lot easier to handle this because you have an evaluation, they have an evaluation. I think it goes back to what you're saying, Gordo, where they might be taken from one pot and putting to the other and stuff like that to make their meet in between the evaluations, and now you can't. Or we heard that the Van Dijk thing was a lot closer, right? Maybe the club is doing what I was doing like a month ago. You put him in tiers. You're like, this is the most important one. This is the second most important. This is the third most important. And you take care of the most important one first, so you know how much money you have left to go after or what you're going to need. Because there's another thing. Slot could be in the background saying, well, I don't want to freaking spend all that money there if you guys are going to come back and say, no left back for you in the summer. I want to do this. I want to do that.
That's what I keep coming back to, the fact that we're all commending Slot for the tactics and for how well he's using this squad. And I think that's a testament to him. The issue I have, or the problem with that is that he may not want this to be the way Liverpool plays for the next 3 of the next 5 seasons. He may want to progress to be more. Anyone who watched that Feyenoord game yesterday against City, that didn't look like we played, but that looks a lot like what Slot did when he was there. Yeah. That's a lot more of the tactics he wants. Direct, central striker, lots of possession. I don't know that he wants his most prolific attacker to be his right wing, or that he wants his right back to be the creator. And I question, maybe Van Dijk's almost done, right? But you don't rip the Van Dijk contract out there until you know, because you want to make sure. And ultimately, they might have a feeling that they're content that Madrid can come in and take Trent. But now you have all that money. As soon as you know concrete, he signed a pre-contract with Real Madrid, you have more money in your allocation, in your budget, to offer Mo and close up that gap. And maybe it's a gamble, but you're giving Mo a chance to, maybe PSG's offer is 3 years at 350. And that's the big deal they're willing to pay. Or Saudi's coming in and it's not as lucrative, or it's not as enticing, or the team he'll go to isn't the one he wants to play for, the city he wants to live in. Like, this could be some high stakes chicken because they got here. But I will keep coming back to this. I think Virgil and or Trent would have signed a deal last summer if Jurgen Klopp hadn't announced he was leaving. And I don't think those guys want it to sign a deal until they heard the new voice and saw what it was going to look like without their
and I don't blame them.
Me either. I wouldn't want to do it. I just took a new job and I didn't take it until I really vetted out the company and talked to a bunch of people I knew that had worked there. And I can understand that. You're committing your career and your prime. And in Virgil's case, the end of your prime. So it was just like this to me was a perfect storm. And I'm not blaming Jurgen Klopp. But it was a perfect storm that Jurgen Klopp created by 3 years ago telling us he was in for a 6-year haul, getting young players and signing deals and getting more club control, and then deciding in November he ran out of gas. And I think we're about to go to another topic here in a second. Might be a manager who's showing some cracks and running out of gas, and it might be a perfect segue. But I do think a lot of this that we're in today is down to the decision Jurgen Klopp made last November, December, and January. to step away from Liverpool Football Club. And we're going to have to come out of it, and it's going to be interesting to see which way we do. And
Yeah, because that
who
would be
plays.
right about the time that we should have been signing these guys to extensions. Instead, we started talking about where club is going and all that kind of stuff. So he says Saudi have publicly just said that they will not chase Mo unless, in the case he wants to go to Saudi. Our Egyptian media correspondent Anan was telling us that there's a lot of rumors on that side of the world in terms of PSG coming in with an offer and stuff. And hey, at the end of the day, I don't like the timing of it, and we're not gonna like it. But let's face it, from Mo's side, he's doing basically what is literally best for him.
Yeah.
I mean, we would do the same for us and ourselves. I've gotten the word out once that, if this transfer doesn't happen, I'm out of here. And, I made sure I told the guy that might tell a guy who actually matters. And then 3 days later, the guy's at my door saying, hey, by the way, this transfer is coming, hang in there. So, I mean, you do what you have to do sometimes to make sure like your career moves in the direction you want it to. This is his last contract, so I get that as well. So we're not going to like it. I definitely hate the timing of it. More than that, I hate the fact that he didn't say it to Sky. And like you said, Gordo went and found some like fan channels and be like, why don't you guys go tell the fans, I love the city kind of thing.
Right. To put a bow on it, though, going back to the original question, which was, how do you think Arne Slot handled the press conference? I thought it was magic, right? Like that's something he's been so stone cold and like very matter of fact in all of his press conferences. And sometimes maybe a little bit too matter of fact. And this was one of those, like, he took a direct quote from Salah and just switched it and made it funny. And it just like, I feel like it totally deflated a lot of the worry. It's like, he's not even concerned with that. Like it was in my opinion, it was a really good deflection of all the pressure.
I thought so too. I mean, when I heard it, I laughed and I was like, that is freaking perfect. I really liked the part where you said, well, at least I don't talk about this here kind of a thing, because I thought that was like a good jab at the same time. So he says the shining light is that Sal's performance. Neither one of their performances. I think Trent is the only one that we talked about like sulking. His mind is already gone. And honestly, that could be just due to performances. If Robertson was basically rumored with Madrid, maybe we would not be saying like Robertson is getting old. We'd be like, his in is already gone. He's already looking for a place in Madrid and stuff. So maybe, we might have fed that line. And that's why it pisses me off, because that's why he went to fans, because he knows some fans are just idiots and they will make it make this a crying thing and a fight and shit like that. The funny thing is, these are the same guys that were saying Mo is done and we should do this and that at halftime of the Arsenal game. So that's why you don't let fans run a club, because they would run it to the ground, sell and buy based on which way it's going.
There's people that are always going to be on that FSG out fence. They got their fingers in the chain link. They're waiting for something to climb over the top.
Don't talk about Kazi like that. Do not talk about Kazi like that. Okay, so let's talk about this over here. I can't remember who was it. It was like Match Day or BBC or Sky or whatever. I saw this on my Facebook feed. I saw it at the game. I did not watch the game until it was actually 3-2. I was like, holy shit, it became 3-2, because I didn't get to watch the games, a lot of working and stuff yesterday. And then I turned it on, they made it 3-3, and I had a good laugh. And I saw him like bleeding, and I was like, what the hell happened to him? So they asked him in the post-match press conference, and he said something like, oh yeah, I was trying to harm myself. And I was like, I know like you're trying to make a joke of it, but like that's not good verbiage that you just used.
He left right after saying it too.
He came out and apologized. Well, not this morning, our morning. Today he came out and apologized, saying, like, oh, he didn't mean to make light of it and stuff like that. Because Gordo, really, when I first saw it, you guys do a show for like mental health and stuff like that. That was my first reaction, saying, ugh, that's cringy. The way he said that.
It wasn't a good look. It was very not Pep, who's usually calm under pressure. I think, like Gally had alluded to a little earlier, we're seeing some big cracks because one of the things that was mentioned, I think it was last Friday. I can't remember if it was last Friday or the Wednesday show, but we were talking about this is kind of a project that he's never had to face in his life. This is a bigger rebuild than he's ever had to deal with. He's got a lot of aging players. He's already under the caution in terms of like pressure early in the season against, first time manager. I think there's a little bit of Liverpool's form that maybe pushed him into signing this 2-year deal of going like, Jurgen stepped away and he probably thought, all right, Liverpool probably aren't going to be good for another 2 years. Like it's maybe time to leave, especially with all this allegations and stuff going on. And then he sees how good Liverpool are doing and goes, man, if I leave the club now and, we hit some turmoil because players are leaving and they're aging and I leave. And then there's a lot that I think like the legacy aspect, we talk about Mo all the time. Like he goes out there sometimes to hit accolades. Right, like he's got those in the back of his head, and there's something about Pep, the egotism of like, I can't be remembered for like bringing City to the top and then leaving them and watching them crumble like Fergie did at United. So I think a little bit of all this is starting to get to him because that was the comment he made that comment and then basically mic dropped and left. Yeah. Like he wasn't happy with it, which I think is it added to how distasteful I felt it was.
I mean, it's with like most managers. I mean, most teams. People always talk about Galley as like, oh, it's a great locker room. It's like a college team, which college teams can be just as toxic, by the way. So I never understand that when they say like, oh, it's like a college team. I'm like, have you ever been on a college team that's toxic? Because I haven't one. So I mean, it's.
Why are you talking about these guys like that? We got Dave on the show every once in a while.
When things go south, obviously, I mean, Klopp was the same way. Let's not like make it sound like Klopp was always going around like old jovial and stuff. When things are going good, you can come out in there and crack a joke. When things are not going so well, which clearly is not right now, Gally. And it looked like it's weird because you can kind of tell it's in their head the way that game unfolded. Because when it was like 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, they're like, fuck, we're back, baby, kind of a thing. And then when it ends like that, how do you think that carries on? Because you watch that team playing. I watched the highlights, like a long-ass highlight thing afterwards, and their defending is all over the place. But it's almost like seems like it's not the same team. They just don't have the same confidence. They're almost waiting for something to go wrong. Whereas when you're on a run, I mean, we've been on those runs. You score on the 87th, 93rd and stuff like that because you're like, it's going to happen. And you play like that. And when you play like that, it does happen. Mind you, Grealish's ball hitting the post is like a FIFA rage quit moment where you say, this game doesn't want me to fucking win. And then you just like leave kind of a thing. But like, what do you make of that? How does it affect it?
I think that the biggest part of it is that we saw this coming. We talked about it over the summer. We talked about it at the end of last season even. This team was starting to show cracks, and I think you saw those cracks. Like they were opining yesterday about getting Nathan Ake back. They tried to sell him 3 times the summer before he became the big starter last year and became a huge portion of the team. Ruben Diaz was a really great signing, Premier League Player of the Year, 5 years ago, the year that they won the title after they picked up the player. He looks a shell of himself. He can't stay healthy. Kyle Walker, it's not even his fault. He's shot, he's done. When a player like that can't run anymore, he was never that great of a defender.
Yeah.
But he made up. He was the guy. Kyle Walker was their Andy Robertson. He's the person who would run all the way across the field and make up for the inverted left back who took up some space in the attacking third. Kyle Walker was their insurance, and now they don't have that. Rodri, Gundogan looks shot, done. He looks like a player you should have let leave, and then you re-sign him and you wonder why it's not working. Kevin De Bruyne doesn't look like he cares. Like it's a lot worse. And they didn't replace players. I asked Bickler this on the Premier League show. I'll ask both of you, and that'll just prove that neither of you watched the Premier League show. Do you know what Manchester City player has played the most minutes this season? To me, it's 100% indicative of the rut and the position they're in and why.
We're not counting Ederson, obviously.
Is it Holland?
It includes Ederson. And it's not Ederson.
I'm gonna have to go.
And it's not
Gundogan?
Holland. It is freaking Rico Lewis.
Oh shit!
Rico Lewis leads them in both appearances and minutes played. And to me,
Look at
that
that,
lets you
Mateusz.
know.
Teacher's
Look at
pet.
Mateusz.
He's
Like,
got Google.
He's one of the two. He's one of the two people who listen to the Premier League show.
To be fair, it just got published yesterday, so I haven't gotten a chance to watch it.
I'm just kidding. But the truth, the point of it is I'm just saying, like it to me, that's a sign though of where they're at. It would have in past years, it would have been KDB, Sergio Aguero. What they're missing is Riyad Mahrez and Ferran Torres and Leroy Sané. They used to get 6 to 8, 10. Sterling had 15 goals from the wing. I feel like the wheels have come off all at once because they're a very, very old team. And the young players that they've supplemented in, Rico Lewis, Akanji, they're not good enough. They're not at this level. Like, I don't think Rico Lewis makes the senior squad at Liverpool. And he's started the most games and the most minutes for City. And I think that represents where they're at. And I don't think this manager knows how to deal with it, which is why you not only scratch and claw at your own head throughout a match, you say something. Because I don't think Pep's a bad guy. He might be egotistical. I don't think he wanted to diminish mental health in any way with his comment yesterday. And I do think
just frustration.
his apology was legitimate today.
I agree.
But I also think
like when you say
something
something like that, if I said it right now, I would. I mean, obviously, in the heat of the situation, he's all pissed off and stuff like that. But I like the moment I heard it, I was like, ugh, like that's not how you say that, dude. Kind of a thing. You would think he would be like that. That's not what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. I mean, we say stuff over here, say all kinds of stupid shits. I mean, even when we actually think we're saying something smart. But so I mean, you're like, you know what I mean. Like, you fix what you said right there, right then, because the moment it comes out of your mouth, your ear hears it, and you're like, ugh, you would think but in his mode and his mindset, that's probably not the case. BX Gunner says, I hate for you to win on the weekend. I love for more watching Pep take another loss. I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Just leave Arsenal. Come on over. Just come on over. You want to.
I am preparing myself to get smashed by this City team. I just like everything in my heart tells me that like they're gonna. This is the game they get their season back on track.
Yeah, I'm not sold as much on this game. The only thing is, the 8-point lead definitely helps. But everyone will remember Pep for the titles at Barca, Bayern, City. I don't think there'll be much talk over the possible downfall. I think really the odd thing is if he was leaving, I agree with Mateusz because he would go somewhere else, especially if he goes somewhere else and starts winning there, like he goes to PSG or something like that, and he starts winning there. I think he'd be forgotten about. I find it odd that he did sign that extension, Gally. Either he's told, hey, this court case is not going to come anything. You're going to spend a lot again, because he has to know that these guys are old and he has to know what he needs and it's going to take money. So that's why I think it's odd. Maybe that's why he's, bleeding all over the place.
I'm going to give you my Friday morning Illuminati Anon moment, okay? I'm going to put on my tin hat. I don't think anyone at Manchester City expects Pep Guardiola to be the manager on July 1st. I think this was an absolute farce. He signed the contract to see if he could get a new manager bump out of the same group because he is so lost for ideas of what to do that he genuinely has no idea how to fix this because he's never been in this type of a spot. And I think that he signed that extension with the understanding that if it all clicks, if we get found not guilty, maybe, and I get re-energized, maybe I stay. But this will stop the players having to answer the questions about my lame duck contract. Will I go? Won't I go? The other thing, I'm going to say this, and I don't want, I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely believe that they thought Ruben Amorim was the guy. They wanted Amorim to replace Pep. He fit their system, their players. They just brought his sporting director to replace Pep's guy. And they were trying to rebuild Pep with the next young, vibrant manager. And not only is that manager not available, he's cross town trying to fix that train wreck. And they were like, Pep, sign this deal so we can at least quell what's happening. Because there isn't a big manager for them because they're not going to get Xabi Alonso. He's not going to go there. I can't imagine he would. he's going to either take Madrid or maybe stick it out longer and maybe take the Bayern job if they make that available to him. There's so many other jobs he would take, I think, than ruining his Liverpool legacy. So I just think it's I think it was a farce of a contract that has as much value to it as like when a player signs an 11-year baseball contract that has opt-outs after years 2, 3, and 5. He just signed a 2-year fucking contract because the player can leave, and if he has the choice, he will. And I have a feeling that's what's happening here. I don't think it has as much to do with the 115 as people think.
So that's interesting. If you're Amorim, Gordo, which job do you take? Do you go into United, where it's a shit show, and they've kind of chewed up and spit out managers over the last decade or so, or do you go to City, where you know you're gonna have funds backing, blah blah blah, a bit more of a under control system? But maybe because things are going well, because at the end of the day, a sheikh can come in, the prince, you don't want to piss off the prince, just ask the Polish prince on Monday. But but at the same time, you might be starting with like negative 15 points or some shit next year. Because if he knew he was going to go to City and nothing was going to happen to City, I feel like it's a no-brainer to say, I'll just go to City instead of United.
Yeah, because they could be totally shackled. We don't know the terms of this. They could be completely shackled and may have to dismantle whatever they had going on in the background, which means that you don't have the amount of money that you previously thought or previously like Pep was allowed to use. I think you've got two big clubs. If these are your only options, you've got two big clubs that are both huge question marks in terms of like really unknown. So you have to take a gamble with either one, but you have to. If it's me, I'm taking the more sure bet, which at this point, there's so much against City right now. And it could go so like nothing like this has ever happened. And so I think there's a bigger question mark in terms of we have no idea. I mean, it could be anything from, the Premier League's absolute crap. There's no spine. All 115 charges are going to be wiped away, or we're going to give you a little 1-year fine or whatever where you can't spend any money and you're not allowed to touch the transfer market or something like that, as much as possibly getting relegated, getting enough points to be relegated. So there's a giant question mark. Manchester United, as much as we all hate them, will not be relegated this year. They will be in the Premier League. So that's literally the only, in my opinion, that's the only difference. And if you're Armorin and you really don't want to leave, if you want to come to the Premier League, and you're looking at the same city, because that's the other thing. Like almost everything is identical, right? You've got two teams that are kind of on the downward trend. I think Man United, depending on what happens in January, one could be in a slightly better position by just being in the Premier League. Also, there is like a young man.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, like young managers too, young good managers. There is always that egotistical, like, I could be the guy to
fix this.
Yes. And I mean, I think part of it is, though, I've said this about Slot in the past. I think his job is more difficult than Amorim in some ways, where it's harder to make an impact and mold a squad that's used to winning and is happy with the old system, as opposed to going somewhere where everybody knows you're going to come in and change shit. So it's a lot easier to change shit when everybody is expecting it. Will the club back you in changing those things is, I think, the issue that you're going to at United. But when you go to City, who's been winning nonstop, and the Prince is like, what the hell? It's the same people, and he has to make changes there because we talked about the aging squad. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like BX Gunner over here rooting for City or us this weekend, rock in a hard place. I don't know which way I would go. Gally.
Yeah, I think he takes the Manchester United job for a couple of reasons. One, I agree with Gordo. He's that young, vibrant, up-and-coming manager. It's almost like Ange looking at the media and being like, I win trophies in my second season. And then they literally looked at him and were like, but you're the Spurs manager now. And he's like, I'll double down and say it again. We're winning a trophy this season. The message was to his players. Mm-hmm. I don't think that was to Tottenham supporters. That was to the players. Like, we're in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. We have a chance to win this tournament. We're in the Europa League, and there's no parachutes coming out of the Champions League. There are maybe 2 playing sides in the entire Europa League field that are better than Tottenham Hotspur on their day. And if Tottenham plays the way they did on Sunday, I think they win. And I think that's why managers take jobs like Spurs and why managers take United. The other reason is I do think that Dan Ashworth and the Ineos folks have some level of success that they can look at. And it pains me to say this. If you stacked up those two rosters, okay, side by side, especially the players 25 and younger, I am absolutely taking Kobe Manu, Lenny Yoro, Rasmus Hoyland, Josh Xerxes. I'm taking Garnacho. I'm taking Amad Diallo. I'm taking that kid that they stole. Block your ears, Gunner 81. That kid they stole from the Arsenal Academy that is outstanding, and OBK Martin or something like that. He's killing it at their youth team. Like, I think United has a much younger, a better young core for Amorim to build on. And I'd argue even some of the aging bit part players outside of like Casemiro and Eriksson, the Mason Mounts. I think there's more upside in Mason Mount than there is in Kovacic. I think there's more upside in Rashford than there probably is even in like a Bernardo Silva at this point. So I think Amorim actually took the smarter job. Mm-hmm. The problem is we've watched all these managers fail, but none of these managers had a semblance of structure. And we've always talked about how good Klopp did, but that the structure of FSG helped, even though so many people wanted it out. And I think we have to give Dan Ashworth time to see what he builds at United, because I think they got the right manager. I think if they don't fuck this up, they're back to competing for top 4 every year and eventually competing for this league. And who knows, maybe Michael Owen's right. He picked City to finish 4th this year, and everyone laughed at him and his pundit picks. And he said, they're a shell of themselves. They're not better than Liverpool, Chelsea, or Arsenal. I think he might be right.
I don't know. I mean, that game, if Guardiola doesn't fuck up, they win, and you can see maybe like the tide is turning. I mean, there's a lot of like cracks in there, but you can still see when they're attacking and stuff like that. There's a lot of talent on that team, and a Doku or somebody back. It's not the old City. That's for sure. But I still think they finish in the top 3 for sure. It is one thing, though. I mean, to play the devil's advocate, the City gig, if you throw the Premier League and all that kind of stuff aside, you don't have to deal with, some ridiculous contracts, and you have people that are a lot more attractive to sell to the Saudi league. You know what I mean? Like Casemiro and stuff like that now is kind of like washed up, and it's not going to bring what he would if he went there from Real. But you can sell, a Kevin De Bruyne, you can sell a Bernardo Silva and stuff like that to Saudi for a lot of money, and then use that money to build a squad. Whereas you have people over there. If Rashford does not pan out for you, if Casemiro does not pan out for you for your system, it's going to be a while before nobody wants those contracts. So they're harder guys to move, and they're not as attractive to move to the Saudi league and stuff. But he made his bet. He can hopefully United will chew him up and spit him out as well. On the way out, real quick, Alan says if Pep leaves, it will likely that PSG will be the only new challenge given their ownership. Robbie's in the house. Robbie, what's happening, man? Why are we clinging on to the that's what Klopp's squad? We won't progressively cling on. I think he's referring to the 3. I don't know, like because he was mentioning Trent earlier. I mean, it is what it is. I thought Bellingham kind of sidestepped that question very well in the press conference about Trent and stuff like that as well. I mean, yeah, honestly, if something happens in January and like Trent signs, I'd be like, whatever. Oh man, how is Kevin? We got to bring you on to the panel. You're gonna come to the panel and represent Palace, because we do need somebody over there representing Palace. But okay, real quick, let's hit on the game today. Obviously, we're gonna be here for the pre-match once the lineup comes up. So I don't want to play too much of a guess the lineup game, but how are you gonna watch the game, Gordo? Are you gonna be leaning back, standing up, laying down?
Well, as I said on Friday, when I said if City drop any sort of points and we end up winning at the weekend, the chunk of time that we thought might be the most difficult time in the season, where like if we were, no, I'm not going to say struggling, but in need of points, a Wednesday Real Madrid, Sunday Man City, this would be the toughest time in the schedule. And we'd all be very nervous. I literally cannot fathom how. I mean, I'm still nervous because it's Real Madrid at home with all the history that we've had. But I'm so surprised at like the level of nervousness that I am. Like, we don't need to win this. Real really do need to win this. I mean, I'm going to be disappointed if we don't win, but I don't think it's not going to derail the Champions League season. And even at the weekend, in my opinion, I mean, the only thing that threatens to do is kickstart City's season in terms of like getting them back on track.
Yeah,
It's not, I'd love to be 11 points clear at the weekend. But I'm going to watch this and just try and enjoy it. Now, I know that Real Madrid can make you not enjoy the game.
yeah.
But I'm going to try my best to just let it happen because this is the least worried I really could have ever thought. I think that's, like I said last week, it's a litmus tester just how good this transition has been, that we are sitting here on the verge of a City and Real Madrid back to back, and we don't really need the points.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on Monday a lot. If it wasn't Real, I don't think we would care. It's only because it's Real Madrid and we have some bad blood and they've kind of like derailed us a couple of times. Is the only reason we probably care, Gally. I don't care in terms of the result. If somebody came in and said 1-1, you want it, I'll take it and run with it and head over to the weekend to play against City. But I mean, what is your level of meh or...
I don't have any angst. I'm not nervous. We're going to go to the bar to watch the match. Kelly gets out of work this afternoon a little early, so we figure what the hell, we'll kick the weekend festivities off, go watch it with some other supporters.
It's Wednesday.
Well, it's the holiday.
It's Thanksgiving. It's a
week done working.
Make it a huge weekend.
I'm pretty sure you're eating your goddamn Thanksgiving meal today.
Yes.
So,
I hear stuff happening downstairs already.
Giving me shit. You're starting a damn holiday.
You can't go to the bar. It's Wednesday.
At a time. But no, I'm not that nervous. I'm excited. I didn't realize until I started like listening this morning on my way to drop the dog off, like literally listening, like Vinny Jr.'s out, Rodrigo's out, Militao's out. Like they're down. They're starting Valverde at right back in a back four. If I'm Luis Diaz, I am licking my lips, and it makes even more sense why you put your tricky winger, not your calm, cool, collective Dutch winger, prepared to start today against Real Madrid. I think we're going to find a lot of joy down the left-hand side. I also think that our defense is pretty much picks itself at this point, especially when you hear that Tsimikas is hurt and he's not available for selection and that Trent's only on the bench. So I think we go with the same back five. I think the midfield maybe gets a piece or two rotated. I would like to see it. It made sense why McAllister didn't start. Most people didn't get talked about. McAllister was one yellow away from a one-match ban. So if he had started last week against Southampton and got one of his classic first-half McAllister 4 foul yellows, he'd miss the City match. So once again, that's something that I'm not sure the last manager would have done. He'd be like, hey, Fabinho, you're fucking starting. Yeah. Take that, and you're playing every minute right through extra time. We don't give a shit. If you get a card, you get a card. I'll start James Milner against City. I like it. I feel now, I picked 2-2 draw Monday night. I feel now they need to go for the jugular. Because do you guys realize if they secure all 3 points today, that at best Madrid will be in 24th position of the table? And have to fight for the last 3 or 4 spots.
We'll be right about PSG.
And they'll be in that 16 teams that have to play that 2-legged tie. And I really think and we will be actually secured a top 8 place mathematically with 3 games to go. Games that come in December and 2 games in January that should be dead rubbers because we're hopeful that we'll be playing 2 meaningful midweek matchups in the League Cup semifinals. I think this match could springboard the ability to stay on top of the Prem and, more importantly, attack the League Cup. And I just think winning predicates winning. And I just think this is an opportunity to keep that train rolling. And we got another wounded, soldier coming in, and we just need to take him out.
Yeah, and likewise too. I mean, what it would say, it's another statement game. If Liverpool come out of this unscathed, and they control the game for 90 minutes, injuries or not, it's still Real Madrid. And then we go into the weekend. I mean, I really think that it is one of those games that we can afford to lose. But man, if we win it and win it comfortably, I don't even mean scoreline comfortably. I just mean we've had several games this year that have been 2-0, where it's not really a comfortable scoreline, but throughout the game, you watch the 90 minutes, never nervous. If we do something like that today, I think after especially what happened to City, I just think it can do nothing but, as Gally said, springboard something really important. And I would like to ask you a question, Temujin, because I know you still have been on the fence about this new Champions League format. If Real Madrid have to be fighting, and they do end up being in that middle of the table where they have to play 2 extra games to make it to the knockout, do you change your tone about the new format in terms of, evening the playing field?
Not really, because we just talked about if Liverpool wins, they have 3 rubber games. And if you think about it, I mean,
but you earned that. You earned that with 5 victories.
Okay, I mean, you earned that in the group stages with 3 victories in the beginning too. You make the last game a rubber. I mean,
but like PSG,
the whole point was making games count more.
No, the point was getting more of these marquee games and less of young boys versus Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid versus.
But you're gonna get Real Madrid's. You can get more marquee games where it doesn't matter to one side. Whereas in the group stages, I felt like every game mattered because there's less games. Let's face it, the ultimate goal is, get bigger matchups and more fucking games and more money. But you're going to have 3 rubber games for Liverpool. So while somebody right now is looking at it, you guys are only like thinking of the person like off top. But if you're a team that's trying to, let's say, crawl into the top 24 or whatever, right? One of those like bottom dwellers that this was supposed to really help because they had more opportunity, blah blah blah. Okay, well, you look going through your schedule, you're like, well, those guys are going to play Liverpool. That's their tough fixture. Our tough fixtures are over. We're going to play like an easier fixture. Well, now Liverpool is going to trot out Ronnie to play them. You're like, God damn it! I thought this was going to be their hard fixture.
I think it will get diluted as years go on. I just don't know how any neutral supporter watching this of a club or in the tournament or not isn't watching this and just enthralled with the fact that I can't remember at any point in any Champions League in the last 5 years where there was a day like yesterday where there were PSG, Bayern, Sporting, Arsenal, all playing in the same day. Today you have Real Madrid, Liverpool, you have Aston Villa, Juventus. These are big matches. The smaller clubs like Brest, some of the other clubs, they've had opportunities to creep up. And to me, I think the excitement over that last day where 18 matches are kicking off at once, and right now the projection is that 22 teams will be able to fill into those final 16 spots, and 6 teams will be able to fill into the final 8. If that much jeopardy is there on the last day of this, I don't know how this can't win. And to me, the best thing about it is no more of the dropping down because teams used to play to finish third to try to go to the Europa League instead of trying to even finish second with an all-out win. And to me, that's just as up and down.
In 5 years, you're gonna love the Super League, man. You're gonna eat it up. I mean, that's basically
this is why the Super League was the right idea outside of the fact that they didn't want Pro Rel in it. I mean, if this to me is a better version because I watched the Champions League for a decade and 1 of 5 teams won it and 1 of 8 teams made the semifinals. It will probably stay the same way. I like this format. I think it's more entertaining and I think it's better for the fans and it gives more for people like us to talk about.
I just think the window in the middle is way too fucking big. If that was half the size, I think it would be a lot more interesting. I think that window is way too big. And if Real is over there, doesn't matter if Real is 24th or 23rd, they're going to be, I mean, maybe not because of the injuries, but they're going to be ridiculously heavy favorites, whoever they face. If that middle window was smaller, maybe only 8, like only, you know what I mean? Like instead of like having like freaking like a huge middle in there, it almost like NHL over here, like everybody makes the playoffs kind of a thing. If it was like a bit smaller, I think I'd be a lot more interested. Now I look at the standings, like, PSG's 25th, 1 win, they're in, and whoever PSG plays, at the end of the day, the other guy is going to eliminate it, is the sense I get. But
they'll have 2 more.
That whole rooting thing, I think, it's, you get great matchups, whichever day you tune in.
There's a possibility for like 2 extra games, though, which I think will have a bigger factor in the later stages of the knockout. Because, I mean, one of the things that we always saw was like a Real Madrid who like didn't really have to care about the last 2 games of the group stage. And then we're able to coast through. Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. Real Madrid would be playing Bayern Munich if the tournament ended right now in a round to get into the round of 16.
Yeah.
That's That's not an easy walk. And that's where I think that whole craziness of that last day of where people finish, because then you're going to have teams like fighting to finish 8th to be in that top 8. You're going to have teams trying to get as high up the top 24 because you want to have the second fixture at home, which you get with the first 8, because it's not a draw. It's 9 versus 24, 10 versus 23.
Yeah.
It's, you could have I think it would be great if you got like a 2-legged tie between, block your ears, Gunner fan, Aston Villa and Arsenal, and an all England tie in that round. I think that could be really fun. And I just like the fact that I think it's great that you're taking the randomness of the balls that can be kind of out of it as well. That
I was the one that draw came out. I was still like, what the fuck? These are still sticky a little bit.
I'm waiting for
the
one.
computer's just as shady as the cold ball in pot
I was
three.
just gonna say, I'm still waiting for one of these times that someone reaches their hand in and goes, "Oh, that's hot." Oh God. Oh.
And you guys might overboard on this, or it doesn't come off their hand.
Yeah, barely speaks English, and then not only says it, then says it in his native country. Like, put one of these on an iron.
I like, by the way, how they did this, where they were like, and everybody watching is like, oh yeah, this is like AI determining this and stuff. I'm like, this could have been something you guys just came up with 2 nights ago, and then perfected it over the last 2 months, and now like presenting it like, no, we can't do this on the fly. But you guys have 2 months to do this.
Yeah. I still I watched the whole thing. It was like I was so confused. They were like, and this is Group A, and they've got this one, and this is the away match. And I was like, they did it I was with you saying like they're throwing stuff at you, like watching the stock market if you're not used to it, that like they could have literally just, or they were throwing so much information during that like picking that I couldn't keep up. So they could have literally just bamboozled everyone. It was too much going on.
Kevin says this format is way better than I've been watching for many years. I think, I don't mind the format in terms of watching and the enjoyment. I just don't like it I guess I kind of look at it from the smaller guy perspective. You made it almost impossible. And I think to me, this is the ultimate goal. And, at the end, I think we have 4 more games. We're going to turn out where all the bottom dwellers are going to be on the bottom and stuff. I think you kind of eliminated the chance for a little guy to make it. And
I don't think
rooting
so.
for Fenerbahce, you got to look. The only thing I do like is, and I agree, like Trevor says the same thing, is, not drop downs. Because if you're a team in Europa and you look at it and you're like, you know what, we're one of the best teams in here, we can go somewhere. Now you're not like, oh shit, you guys just came over kind of a thing. So I like that aspect of it. But I mean, and you're also getting your goddamn games. Just play your 8 games, make your money. I think the thing I don't like about the format the most is the away and home thing, not being back and forth. Because it can really affect the draw. There's a difference between playing Liverpool at home and coming to Anfield, for example. So if there's 2 bottom dwellers, one of them coming to Anfield, they don't want to play Liverpool at home, is night and day. The fact that it's not going both ways irks me. But like I said,
okay, so for instance, right now, and of course this is just because some of these teams have only played 4 games, but in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you've got Atalanta, who beat us last year in the Europa League. So they were in the Europa League. They end up winning the whole thing. And Leverkusen, who was in the final, who were beaten by, and you've got 3 teams that last year were in the Europa League are now sitting basically at the top of this table. Like how, in my opinion, and I know that those are bigger clubs anyways, and they probably belonged in the Champions League in the first place. But I mean, I think that says something. And like Serzi says, I think Brest are the counters this year. They've been definitely punching above their weight. Now there is 3 more games left. I just think that when you're in the past and you're in pot 4 and you've got to play twice a team in all the other pots, like in that, for me personally, I feel like that keeps those teams out of a chance. And this to me is a little easier for them to play and actually get more points.
I feel like because it's so, if you're as the little guy, you're going against, in the grand scheme of things, against the other little guys. And if they're away game, I mean, those matchups matter where you go away too. That's why the only thing I don't like, because there's no way to make a fair schedule because everybody's playing different people for one, and where they play differs as well. BX Center says the away goals on aggregate being removed has taken a bit spice out of the drama. I just don't. Yeah, I know, like the away goals, we talked about it before. I mean, the whole point was to make teams not sit back and attack more when they're away, because the away goal was so important. But it really didn't work. You still had teams parking the bus. They really did not care as much. So I think they had to. I think like the reason it was implemented was so those teams do come out, because an away goal can win you the round or whatever. But really, it rarely happens. People were still like, if you score on a counter, we score on a counter. Otherwise, we're gonna sit here. Nobody came out and attacked to get like an away goal.
My dad still talks about before the aggregate rule. It was the tiebreaker was the amount of corners that you produced during the ties, and so it forced teams to be more attacking to get the corners.
By the way, 3 corners a penalty kick, is that a thing over here in the U.S.? When you're playing as a little kid, you didn't do corners because you're playing like 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 and stuff. When I was growing up, 3 corner kicks were a penalty. Is this like just a Turkish Mediterranean thing?
I've never heard that.
Was it a thing over here when you guys were playing? Like, I mean, I'm not talking about like organized soccer. I just pick up, 2 backpacks and you're playing.
Yeah. We would
3
do
corner
something
kicks
like that.
a penalty. Was this a thing or not?
We did something like that when we were playing like pickup games, but like never in any organized.
No. This was more like,
we also, I'm old enough that there weren't even that many people. There weren't even that many young kids playing 4-a-side, 5-a-side, 7-a-side. Like the first time I ever put on soccer uniform and shin pads that were probably this big on my 3-foot frame, like I was literally playing on a field with 11 kids, and it was 22 people swarmed around a ball. Like there was no real. Like I played full games my whole life. By the time I was coaching my nephew and my niece, a good. When I was in my early 20s, we were more playing like 5-a-side, 7-a-side, small nets. We were starting to learn that it was not good to just roll a ball out there, ladybug style, and just, let a bunch of kids kick each other for 45 minutes while their moms sit there and cut up orange slices. Like that shit just wasn't helping anybody except for the moms and dads who got 45 minutes away from their heathens.
Honestly, I don't think I wore shin guards until high school, because it was just more like a pickup game and, mostly unorganized and stuff like that. I don't think it was organized, full uniform and stuff like that back home. But I mean, I don't know. It's like England, Gordo. Like you can just go to, I know when I was in London, you can just go to any park with a ball. And then, in 2 minutes, you're in a pickup game of some sorts with some backpacks or anything like that. Ravi's still like raging about, dude, we got a game in a couple of hours. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about these. I mean, honestly, like if things were not going well, I would worry more about these contracts. I am not, because none of these guys are sulking or anything like that. But we'll be here for the pre-match. But I gotta ask you this, by the way, Gordo, before we go. Are there ducks being sacrificed tomorrow for Thanksgiving?
No, there are not. This was a rough summer. We had a resident fox that a large oak tree fell down in the woods behind my house, and she had some kits, and she was feeding them with our ducks. So I'm down to 6. I had.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we had 12 at the beginning of the year, so I cannot take any more. Plus, in the winter,
any more to injuries.
Yeah, in the winter they like cuddle up together to stay warm. So if you start eliminating them, they get colder and colder. So. No, my wife is finally on board with getting guard geese. So I've been trying to get her to have guard geese for a couple of years now, and she's always been against it. But after they took her favorite duck, so they've got some.
This is the thing. What do you mean,
They're just large
like bouncer geese,
basically. Yeah, if you raise them with the ducks, they think they're ducks, but obviously they're 2 to 3 times as big, and they're very loud and aggressive. And so anything that comes in, they'll just basically protect the flock. And something as small as a fox is not going to mess with ducks if there's a geese there. So.
I did not know this was a thing. Growing up at basketball and baseball. Come on, man. Come on. Let's not do
That's why he supports the Arsenal. It's just as boring.
Yeah, that was the way. You just backpacks for the goals or fans, or a tree for one post, backpack for the others. How we rolled. But we'll be here for the pre-match once the lineups come up. I think 1:30 Central is what we scheduled the show for, right, Gally?
Yep, I'm gonna schedule it after this.
Yeah, so 1:30 Central is when we're going to be live. The lineups will be out, so there won't be any speculating. We'll get ready for the game, and obviously for the post match. If we don't see you by then, or after that, until then, have a great Thanksgiving. If you're in the U.S., celebrating ours today over here with the turkey and the whole works. But have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you guys in a little bit over here for the pre-match. Take care.